Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday at 6 talk show, the best talk show in the whole wide world. We're broadcasting live from the Humboldt Universität campus spin-off zone. We're live from Berlin. Revelations of Edward Snowden that came to light a couple of weeks ago. We're going to have a whole show on that theme. So we're going to talk in depth about it, and we're also going to make sure that at the end of the show you are better informed. And we've learned out of a lot of research lately that people actually don't really care. And this is something that we don't accept on this table because we think you should care about this topic. So at the end of the show, I'm going to ask the audience, okay, do you now care a little bit more? If they then react with a big applause, then we did our job properly tonight. So I'm going to introduce all my guests at the table and give them a very big welcome. Our first guest is our host of tonight, working here from the Humboldt campus. Give him a big round of applause. Marek Checinski of Creative Quantum.
Hello.
And our second guest of tonight, and I'm delighted that she's here on my table, is the number 2 on the national elections list of the PirateParty. Give it up for Miriam Seyffarth.
Thanks so much for having me.
Also on the show, and I must say that tonight we have a very strong table, is a journalist that I admire very much. He writes for one of the best tech blogs in the whole wide world, and that is GigaOm. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. You read all his articles. Give it up for David Meyer.
Pleasure to be here.
And our last guest on the table for this first part of the show is a lawyer. And he's a lawyer at Buse, Heberer, From. And I'm also delighted that he's here to share his expertise with us. And please give it up for Philipp Schrage.
Thanks for having me.
So what does it mean for Berlin tech entrepreneurs that Prism and Tempora are there, so that we're all massively spied upon? First, I would like to ask Marek, what's the main feeling that you now have after reading and hearing about this stuff that is going on?
Okay, my biggest problem if I read all these articles about this NSA and so on is from the point of view that the economic espionage problematic is very, very high, because I read in several news that especially that companies which wanted to submit a patent, an example, and worked very hard on it, and that an American company were faster, and it's a problem that they maybe are possible to steal or to catch data from them if they use cloud services on them, and there is a risk for this kind of companies to handle their data and outside of the company. That's an example, one reason why for our customers we collect the data in-house and we don't use any kind of cloud services in our startup.
Yeah, so you specifically don't use servers outside of the country because you're afraid that you are being spied upon.
Right, only email cloud service, but in general no storage, because we have to have this very safe data level in storage, because we handle a very important data for our clients. Our clients are big companies which make billions revenues, and we working with them on several R&D projects, and it's very important to keep the secret. So we use high encryption level technologies, and our servers are not connected to the internet and so on. These are the steps what we have to do to keep the data safe.
Yeah, we're going to talk about encryption later on more, but first to you, Miriam. I mean, we've seen in the polls that the PirateParty is doing very well amongst all this revelation. I mean, you're rising again. You were very high, and then you dropped because of the internal chaos enormously, and now it seems like you've gained some upside potential again. So what's your response on Prism and Tempora?
Well, I mean, it's of course nice for us that we are rising again slowly, but still. But my biggest problem with the Prism scandal is that we are actually right now developing into a surveillance state, and there are still so many people who say that they don't bother because it has nothing to do with them, and they have nothing to hide, and that really enrages me because I've got a couple of things to say to that. Like, first, maybe you say you have got nothing to hide, but other people do, so please be considerate, because everybody has something to hide. They're just not conscious of it. Like, for example, would you like everybody to know that, I don't know, maybe you got a certain condition or sickness? Would you like everybody to know that? Would you like everybody to know what you think about your boss? Would you like everybody to know about your sexual orientation, identity, preference, whatever? And I mean, you wouldn't like the NSA to search your house twice a day, but you probably got more intimate information about yourself on your computer than you got in your house. So feel free to write a weekly report to the security service of your choice with all your personal information, but don't drag other people into it, and just be more conscious of what it really means and why you should oppose to it.
Yeah. David, it's maybe a strange question, but are the revelations of Edward Snowden that this actually is happening? Is it really new? Is it for you something that has surprised you that there's not now such a big outrageous mob that is responding to this?
Well, the scale of it has surprised me. I think the fundamentals of what he said have been known before, and I mean the problem is that a lot of the people who were going on about this before one might have called conspiracy theorists, except now they've been proved correct. There are certain things that we did know for sure already. We've known for a very long time the US and the UK have been sharing information. That's how the US got dragged into World War I, is because the UK intercepted a telegram that was going off to Mexico and brought them in. And we also knew about a system called Echelon, you know, which is the basically the Five Eyes, the kind of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, I think, UK and US, and that kind of happened just over a decade ago. I think the difference now is the scale of the information that is actually being captured and how personal it is to us. I mean, you have to remember, it's only in the last since 2007 that we've had the smartphones as we know them now, etc. And we're carrying around a computer with us all the time. It's got sensors that's collecting information about how we move. Even you can even identify people from that information. So it's just taken everything to a completely different scale, and it's proven what we already suspected.
Yeah. So how is it possible that from these conspiracy theorists, all of a sudden an article in a British newspaper, The Guardian, 2 months ago, causes these kind of discussions?
Well, there were no denials. You know, nobody denied it. None of the NSA, the governments, etc., etc. They basically said, yeah, we are doing that, but it's okay because we say so. So, you know, we now know straight from that the substance of what Snowden is saying is true.
Yeah. At this moment, as we speak, actually, the FBI and the Russian secret services are negotiating about the fate of Edward Snowden, and he is still on a Russian airport and cannot leave the transit area there. So maybe even during the show we're going to hear more about that, but this is like really an ongoing story. Philipp, you're a lawyer at Buse. You're handling mainly intellectual property. Marek touched upon this topic already, that there's always the threat of your data then being spied upon, which is now turns out is actually true. Does this play a role in your practice when you're advising startups about intellectual property?
Yeah, mostly what we do is from a legal perspective to maybe tell them or try to first line to detect the actual intellectual property laws they might be their creations might be subject to. So it's not especially our legal advice how to just save this information that they have, to how to do their servers, where to put them and so on. This is what we have the guys like Marek for. This is not the legal problem. What we do is, of course, tell them how to secure their rights. And if you hear about a case like what he's telling, like they have a patent stolen and then published in the US, that shows you should be fast and should not wait like, oh, I have a good idea, I wait for a year, I go to some, I don't know, places where I show these ideas. No, you should protect them. You go to the register, you have them registered. that's always what we tell our clients. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
By the way, guys, feel free also to respond, right? Because we're here sitting at a table. You all got your own microphone, so please also add information if you want to.
Yeah, an example, I know another situation where a company, pharmaceutical company, print out all the documents for a patent office and sent it by postal service, not by email, because they didn't trust the email transfer. So, and this is usual nowadays and now for pharmaceutical companies. It's crazy.
It's normal for pharmaceutical companies to
Nowadays,
send by post instead of by email.
Yes, thousands of documents by postal service
Seems
because
to be that
they
right.
because
Seems
But
to be right.
that shows a lack of knowledge, right? Because you can't encrypt postal information.
yeah, and it is crazy. We can send it by email, but they
Yeah.
don't trust in the email service.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also true what Miriam says, that is that real, are you then really protected, right? You have the same problem that people can open it, or
Yeah, but you
we've
can't.
saw that we've talked about World War I before, but we know a lot of methods that
Yeah, but you can take one or two guys and give them some tickets, and then it will bring it directly to the.
okay,
Like
so
a
couriers.
rider,
Yeah,
like
right.
in the
Yeah.
Wild West or
Yeah,
in the
right.
Middle Ages.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
take this and
Yeah.
bring it there.
And until now,
Right.
we do not yet know that NSA is also infiltrating the German postal service. So
No.
we'll see when the new revelations.
Maybe they
will
don't have
come
to.
upon.
I read one commentary in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, which said Germany has lost his sovereignty by America spying on this country. Is that so? Could we say that Germany has lost its own ability to govern itself?
It's if you ask me, yeah. It's first of all, it's a nice headline, I would say. But what does it mean? It means, like, we're two independent countries, like the U.S. and Germany, and what we have to witness now is that we have some sort of spy attacks running on German citizens and German companies, and this is of course something that you should not, have between states that are actually in a friendly relationship. And so sovereignty, I wouldn't say that. It's just an attack somehow, if you want to call it that way. And it is a kind of a surprise to all of us, at the scale at least.
Yeah, but Miriam, what surprises me the most is that actually the German government didn't put out a statement that said this is scandalous, what is going on here. Instead, they did try to calm everybody down. And I mean, Angela Merkel called the internet Neuland,
Yeah.
which was kind of like a
Gosh.
statement of, okay, we're not
Yeah.
exactly sure what's going on. When you saw that press conference where everybody was waiting for the statement from Merkel when Obama was here, what did you think at that moment?
Well, I thought nobody is defending it, us, not even our own government. And I agree slightly with the headline, we lost our sovereignty. It's for sure what's going on. It's just not democratic because, in a democracy, every power comes or derives from the people and they decide something. And if we have this massive surveillance system that, pretty much nobody knows about and nobody voted for, then it's not democratic and there's no consent. Nobody was asked, is it okay if we collect your data or something? And this is enraging, and that our government doesn't pretends to not know anything about it. That is enraging, because of course they do. And I mean, the guys at the NSA said that, and that also came out that they were working perfectly well together with the German Secret Service. So how can they say they didn't know anything about it? It's enraging. So that means that our government actually lied to us multiple times, and they don't do anything, and they don't even care. And also I think they lack the knowledge to actually oversee all the consequences.
Yeah. So this is kind of a hypothetical question, but if the Pirate Party was actually, reigning Germany, which you of course hope that they would do, would you then deny any information from secret services that could prevent an attack on Germany?
What do you mean by denying? Like, if they were asking to get it and we would...
If it was obtained illegally now, like the data that is now obtained in some ways illegally.
I still don't get the question. Like, you like, I wouldn't give the information away, or...
Would you use the information if it was obtained illegally?
No. Of course not.
Okay, so this would mean that you, in under these circumstances, you would also say to the Bundesnachrichtendienst, so the German spying operation, that they have to stop for a big part the practices that they are now doing?
Of course, yeah. I mean, like the main subject of the Pirate Party since its foundation in 2006 is privacy and data protection. So actually what we would do is we would enforce laws that actually help people to protect their data. And there are so many places where you can actually fight for it. The German government tries to put in place laws that are actually quite the equivalent to Prism. Like we got the Vorratsdatenspeicherung, that is basically massive data collection. We got the Meldegesetz, the Bestandsdatenauskunft. Basically, it's all the same. And what we need to do is to not put these laws in places, but on the other hand, help people to protect their data. We need stronger data protection. For example, on the European level right now, they are talking about a new general data protection regulation. And it's really bad. It's not in a good shape, and we need to enforce these laws.
But on the other hand, the government cannot be responsible for which programs we use. So we have the free choice. It would be horrible if our government say, okay, don't only use this, and this program. So this cannot be. The people has to decide. Okay, if they see, okay, Gmail is maybe not so secure, or Dropbox is not so secure, they can change the service.
But
it's
there is
only one click away.
But there are a zillion things they could do. Like, for example, just a real small thing the government can, and in very small cities, for sometimes they actually do, they could promote free software, for example, which is much safer.
Yeah, an example in the case of encryption. Yeah. But the community works for new services and new technologies. An example: 1 week ago, a German in an institute programmed add-on for Facebook. Then you encrypt the chat, the messenger messages directly, and it came from Germany. Then some programmers from the university.
Yeah. But the question here, David, is: are there real alternatives, for example, in Europe or in Germany, for Gmail, for Facebook, for Skype?
Well, Skype was originally technically an Estonian thing, wasn't it? So, are there the alternatives? They are here, but they're not as user-friendly or as attractive or as well-known. I mean, frankly, I'm struggling to think of a European Skype alternative. Seeing as
I'm
Skype
using
is now
Jabber, just as a tip. You know that XMPP protocol?
Yes. Well, this is the thing. You have all these things. You've got PGP. You've got all sorts of encryption things, but they're really difficult to use for the average person. And the problem is, even if you use them for business purposes and you get all of your business contacts to agree to use them, what about your mum and your dad, and etc., etc.? You can't get all of your email contacts to agree to use encryption. It's simply not going to work, and it all falls apart. We need new. Maybe not new encryption, I suppose new encryption technologies, but certainly new front ends, new user interfaces to actually make this viable. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, but this is possible. But we need the users that they test these new services. I read several new cloud services, file sharing from Norway, from Spain, everywhere. But they are too small and too unknown, so the user have to inform it. If they think, okay, I don't want that the NSA or they have the access to my data, okay, so they can choose. It's only one click away.
But I think we have actually to work on two frontiers at the same time. Yes, we need to help people to enable them to use encryption. And for example, we are doing crypto parties all the time, and we have been doing this for years, but only now they are being overrun by people who want to learn how to encrypt their emails and their chat programs and whatever. So this is one thing we need to enable them to protect their data.
So can you explain more about what a crypto party is?
Okay, for sure. Well, a crypto party is like you invite people and you help them hands-on. They bring their laptops or whatever, their devices, their netbooks, their smartphones, and you explain to them how they actually can install programs with which they can safely chat or browse or write emails and everything, because as was said already, it's not as user-friendly and not as easy. Like once you got it installed, it's really easy. Like for example, I use an email program, and if I want to encrypt an email, I just click on encrypt this email. Done. and then I use a password. And same with chatting. I can say like, okay, now in our chat, we're getting to a touchy subject. I just click on encrypt this chat. But first you have to enable people to actually install this, and this is what happens there. And it's really easy. You can do it with everyone.
There's this one major problem I'd like to bring up with that, which is that we don't actually know in detail what the techniques that the NSA and everybody else are able to use. We don't know which encryption methods have been compromised. So on a technological level, I don't think it's easy to. I don't think you can fix this with technology alone.
No, I don't either.
It has to be a political thing
Yes.
as well. The problem with the political thing, and if you do succeed in getting into coalition or whatever, you'll find this yourself, is that the only real answer to this is somebody has to sit there and say, there's a very small risk of us falling victim to terrorist attack. You're much more likely to die in a car crash, etc., etc. I am willing to accept that risk as long as I can be free and not surveilled upon all the time.
Exactly, yeah.
Now that's a really difficult thing to say,
For
but
sure.
it is what somebody's going to have to say
Yeah.
if they're going to actually win over the public on this. They're going to
Yeah.
have to say, look, let's be adult about this. Let's recognize that this is a risk mitigation thing.
Yeah.
Surveillance isn't going to keep us safe.
Yeah, but
I want to
Yeah.
formulate this a little bit more difficult for you, so that you are also really challenged to say something about this, because what this implies is that you would go out there now as the Pirate Party and tell people that, okay, if you vote for us, the chance of a terroristic attack is minimal, but it's going to be bigger, and we do that because we want to give you more personal freedom. Are you able and willing to go out there with such kind of a message?
Yes, totally, and I totally agree with David. I mean, what we actually would need in a perfect world would be a what is it in the atomic war
Proliferation.
proliferation? Exactly. What we need is a say it again.
Proliferation.
Proliferation. We need a non-proliferation treaty, actually, which means that countries one by one say that they will, what is it? Not disarmament. They just
Not use.
not use the spyware, exactly. And I mean, you won't have all at the same time, but it actually worked for the US and Russia, and they said like, we're gonna not use these weapons anymore, and step by step they like use these like atomic weapons, for example, less and less, and we need that with the spyware too.
A very interesting point in the debate. We're also going to talk about this more, but we're also going to listen to music in between and a pitch. So this is what we're going to do now, listen to some music. So if the band would make themselves ready for the performance already. Last question for you in this section of the Friday at 6 talk show is, Philipp, would there be any chance for people now that say, okay, I feel spied upon, to go to maybe even to Karlsruhe, to the High Court, and say, okay, this is not something that I want. My government is not protecting me. Can people do this?
I fear that this is a very difficult way to go, because what we're talking about here is actually what we talked earlier is that we really are like an attack from somewhere outside the world, the US or whatever country it might be. And hardly any German court will be the competent court to say, oh yeah, we judge this country to, I don't know, do some good, I don't know, service for us, whatever. They cannot sentence them. Yeah. So I guess that's not the way. You got to use this or solve this problem on an international law basis. Mm-hmm. So you can enter in any contract if you want to. I obviously our government is not willing to do so, but maybe in September everything will change.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about the lack of democratic control inside of government bodies, and we're also going to talk about more about the encryption techniques and also the cloud that is now, of course, so important for many countries, and how safe that actually is. But first, as I already said, we have tonight on the Friday at 6 show a band with members from Chile, and they do have a cool startup program in Chile, but these guys weren't on it, but they are from Chile. So actually there's no connection whatever with the startup scene, but they're here tonight. So I would like you to all give it up for this super cool band. They were already all over television in Chile. They played so many concerts. They're 3 brothers and they're awesome. And they're now in Berlin and going to play for us. Please give it up for Scormac.
Quiero dibujar canciones para así lograr mezclar emociones de la infinidad, más allá, fronteras de la realidad. Quiero ver las melodías, poderlas tocar, flotando en el aire hacia la libertad. Cómo actuar contra ese sentimiento que ha de gobernar. ¿Y cómo será? Poderlo alcanzar. ¿Será que el dolor se viste del color que pinta inspiración? Ahora vuelvo a ser yo, vuelvo a despertar. Que los días de tu boca no se agoten más. Bésale el cuello a la libertad. Cómo actuar contra ese sentimiento que ha de gobernar. Y dime cómo llegar. Poderlo alcanzar. ¿Será que el dolor se viste del color que pinta inspiración? Ahora vuelvo a ser yo. ¿Será que el dolor pintó mi inspiración? Ahora vuelvo a ser yo. Ay, yeah. ¿Será que el dolor se viste del color que pinta inspiración? Ahora vuelvo a ser yo. ¿Será que el dolor pintó mi inspiración? Soy el color. Ahora vuelvo a ser yo. Make some noise. Yeah, yeah. Vuelvo a despertar.
Give it up again for Scomic! Thank you so much, guys. And as always on the Friday at 6 show, sometimes the pitchers don't walk up to the microphone when they're announced, which is also always a kind of awkward because you've emailed me, hey, I want to pitch on your show, and then I announce you, and then you don't come to the microphone. So if the pitcher wants to go to the microphone where the band originally played, then he or she has also all the time in the world, exactly 1 minute, to announce their company's product and to try to convince with the separate video an investor or try to wake some interest from other people.
Thanks, Dirk, for having me. I'm Thorsten Müller. I'm from TAME, actually a spin-off from the Humboldt Innovation or the Humboldt University as well. And our mission is to tame the information overload. And we're starting with Twitter. So Dirk has actually touched upon it already. If you'd imagine that all of you people would be tweeting crazy by now, okay, about this event, there'll be hundreds of tweets. Maybe sometimes there are even thousands of tweets, 100,000s of tweets, millions of tweets every day on Twitter. So what we do with TAME is we actually filter all these tweets and we put them into relevance rankings. So that means if you use TAME, you'll get the top topics, top mentions or top users, and the top links from Twitter instantly for any topic or for your own timeline. So, for example, I'm following roughly about 1,000 people on Twitter. That's kind of 5,000 tweets in my timeline every day. So I don't have the time to check all of this. So I'll go and use Tame, and I can see which is the most relevant stuff that people are talking about, which users I should follow, and which are the links that I should read. And I can do this for any search keyword that I want to do. So Tame is actually still in open beta. We're going to relaunch in August. So if you sign up for Tame, it's www.tame.it. In July, you'll get a free month of our real version, which is coming up in August. So thanks a lot.
And now, while we're at it, because this is a chance you normally would not get, David, please, could you tell something about this pitch? Did you pay attention or not? Yes. Yeah. Do you like his service? Could you comment a little bit on it?
I think it's different strokes for different folks. I mean, I'm somebody who's just been suffering the death of Google Reader, and my problem with everything that's come after it, with that people have pitched, with the exception of Feedly, is that it's all curated. So for me, I hate that. I want to see every little bit of raw details, but a lot of people don't. So I think there's certainly a market for that kind of stuff. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a personal demo afterwards, I can definitely show it, because I think that Twitter list is actually kind of a substitute for Google Reader. So if you really curate your following on Twitter well, it'll give you the same extra value as Google Reader did, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Okay, so give it up for Tame, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
For the second part of the Friday at 6 talk show, we have a new guest on the table, and her name is Keyun Ruan, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Could you, I mean, because it's so awesome, on her Twitter bio, she writes that she's a cloud forensic. I mean, oh my God, I love these new terms, but what is it?
Basically, it's about how to carry out investigations in cloud computing environments. And it's a new area of research, which I pioneered during my PhD. And now we are working on a lot of international standardization efforts on try to provide an architecture framework procedure for legitimate investigation.
Right, because we were talking about protocols such as HTTP and PHP, which make it very difficult in this recent debate about Prism and Tempora to say, okay, are there alternatives? Are there any situations where you could say, okay, it's not that we can do something else? But first of all, let me start a little bit easy on you, because you just arrived. Your timing was perfect.
Yeah.
But could you say something about how did you feel when you read about Prism, and because you're so into all this kind of stuff? How did you feel when Edward Snowden published his revelations on Guardian?
Yeah, to be honest, for me it was kind of expected. I was as a researcher, I think it's well expected that government will use this kind of convenience when they can, until people demand more from them. So for me, the biggest concern is rather, if we were given the opportunity to change, do we really know what we want? Because I think many people are so technologically uneducated, in a sense that they are not really into technology, and they're just reading news, and that's not enough to participate in a positive and constructive way. So I think there will be a wave of civil movement online, because it's part of what I call cyber anthropology. Basically, we are moving the whole
cyber anthropology.
Because we are essentially moving the whole anthropology online now, and the political participation, freedom of speech, privacy are all kind of under this big roof. So in order to move everything forward, I still think this is a very positive.
We're going to talk about this civil movement then later on. But first, could you explain to us what makes this debate so complicated? So, what are actually the standards that we are all using with email and all of the other services that make it so hard to use another email client or whatever? What we want? What makes a technical debate so complicated? The lack of alternatives, for example. Do we have alternatives for Gmail, for Facebook, for Skype?
I think we always have alternative. You can set up a server yourself and build an email program yourself. And
But will this cause this big civil movement online?
a grassroots movement, but I think that the difficulty is that not everybody can code and not everybody can provide such a big platform. And I think there is significant internet company giants that are dominating all these service. So there is a lack of, I think, smaller providers that are providing alternative solutions. So that's, I think.
But are they ready for the mass market?
Depending on how good they are, I think Google.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's difficult to compete with Google and Facebook now. Right?
There are even products now in Germany, like the Protonet box from Hamburg. They are selling a box where you have a private cloud server. You can use this server in your office and at home, and there are solutions and now on the market from new, fresh startups that are providing these new services. And I guess this is a big chance for everyone who's now in the position to create a new startup.
Yeah, which is I think very positive improvement. I think one way to help general public to participate in this is to simplify the programming itself, to make it easier for the mass market or the general public to code themselves, and then they can be more innovative in terms of personalized security and do whatever they think will be the best for them and their data.
David, do you think that this is the solution to make like coding and getting your life in your own hands online is the way to go?
I don't know about coding. I think you're never going to get most people to code. It's not going to happen. I mean, at least not in the next 10 years. I don't.
Do you believe, überhaupt, I wanted to say it, do you believe that such an online civil rights movement can come out of this recent times?
Yes, I do. But I think what has to happen is that certain of the fundamental assumptions that we have about how applications are architected and the business models behind them need to change. And I think this is where there's a golden opportunity, and I can't say exactly what opportunity has to be followed here. I mean, if I could figure it out, I probably wouldn't be a journalist. I'd be earning a lot more money. But I mean, for instance, something like Facebook, should be really replaced, ideally, in my view, by a decentralized system where everybody has control over their own profile and they can hand it out, to services as they wish, and
I guess diaspora is.
Yeah, but it's certainly not ready yet. That's one of the examples where just the technology is not yet ready, like diaspora or what is it, the other alternative for chatting, for example.
Well, I think diaspora. I think the technology was kind of there, but it just never took off because it only
never took off.
Something like that. It's about the network effect, and it has to take off in that way. Yeah. I think another thing as well is so many startups that I see in Berlin and everywhere are all kind of predicating their service upon the idea that you give something away for free and you then track people. I think they're going to have to move away from that, because I think data protection laws probably already forbid that, technically speaking, but they're not enforced, and that's going to change. That
will mean, for example, almost the end of a company like Zalando. Because a big part of their business model is not selling the shoes because it's too expensive, because more than half of the people send them back. You want to use their data to exploit that for other purposes, right?
Well, they can, you can be upfront about it, and you can say, we want to use your data and do it in a way that doesn't
but now people think, cheap shoes.
That doesn't kind of fool people in the way that companies are so used to doing now. I think that there's a huge gap in the market for companies to be a lot more honest. And to not base everything on the idea that they're going to kind of lure people in and then exploit them.
No, but companies won't be honest at their own will. So it's about demanding transparency and then to apply certain mechanism to audit whatever they have to be comply with. And I think to have more grassroots development and innovation is one way to look at it, but also look at automobile industry, and there are still like big manufacturing brands that are providing cars for us, and not everybody is building their own cars. So cloud computing and digital infrastructure might be similar in terms of there will be kind of utility, and it's still possible that there will be big providers instead of a lot of smaller ones. But then transparency and auditing will be a very big issue for people to participate.
Or the only way for cloud computing to go on, if you want to do it in an honest way?
I think I would lean towards it will become part of utility.
Yeah, but
it's like gas, energy, electricity, etc.
You think that's a fair business?
It took time for these utilities to be standardized and be what it is now, and I think it will take time for computing to be like that as well, and there will be always sacrifices.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but you would always say to companies now, if you want to advise them about cloud computing, you would still say, okay, put your data on an Amazon web server somewhere in Ireland.
Depending on their business operation, depending on the value of their digital assets, I think we need to do a comprehensive risk assessment on what type of data they have and they operate and the nature of their business, and then see what type of data can be put on a public cloud and what kind of data has to be in a private cloud or on-premise stored inside a company. So there will be a security strategy to that, but I would say that cloud computing is definitely a positive paradigm shift that cannot be reversed already. So it's more important to be actively participating and give feedback, especially from companies, because there are many forums now under European Commission and governments. They are asking input from various stakeholders. So I think one way to make change and positive change is to be actively participating instead of trying to avoid it.
One quick question to Miriam about politicians in general. If you would now let them watch this show, would they understand, do you think, like 90% of the people in Parliament, what we are talking about?
I don't know. I very often have the feeling that there just is a huge lack of knowledge of the technology. I mean, look at Chancellor Merkel saying this is all Neuland to all of us. And you're like, nope. Have you talked to the internet lately? It's not Neuland. I mean, some of the technology, it's not like high level, but many people don't know about the possibilities they have. Like, for example, you mentioned you can host your own email server or your own chat server. And for example, I do that. I don't do the administration myself, but I do that with a bunch of friends. So I can be sure I know where the server is, and I know that it cannot be attacked. It's not somewhere hidden in the cloud or something.
But isn't this a very, very serious problem that politicians don't know about these type of developments?
Well, for sure. I don't know if it's because they are not interested in it and they don't care, or if the I don't know, the members of parliament who are interested in it are just too few. I mean, there are a few politicians, but they're just not so many. And maybe the politicians are just too old, you know? I mean, seriously. I mean, look at the average age of the member of parliament right now, and these people did not grow up with Facebook and Twitter, and they have younger people in their team tweeting for them or using Facebook for them, so they just lack the knowledge.
On the other hand, these are also going to be the first elections that more than 50% of the voters is older than 50 years. So in that regard, it may, in the results in the end, be also not that visible.
That's true, but still you have the older part of the population, but they still are using emails and they're still browsing the internet. My grandparents are using the internet, even if they don't understand it in the way that maybe we people on this table do understand it. But they still use it, and they still have a right to data protection, for example. And you can't say because the population grows older that the younger people should not be represented in parliament. And since the internet is everywhere and everybody is using it for their everyday life, whether for the company or the private life or whatever, you need people in parliament to actually represent this and fight for your privacy and for your rights in the internet, because you can't say, because this is another argument that's brought very often, you can't say there's the real world and we have laws for it and whatever, and you have rights, and then there's the internet and everything is just completely different there.
Yeah, Marek, you handle a lot of data that goes to pharmaceutical companies that are really careful with their data. But what we saw in the west and in the south of Germany, there was a lot of traffic, so to say, that was spied upon by the NSA. So do you think, or in your opinion, when you work with companies, are companies aware of the risks? Is a majority aware?
Majority, I don't know, but they have they look for secure transfer of documents. That they want this kind of transfer, and even discussions. I have one example that I was on a congress, and I asked a guy from a huge company to discuss about a special topic. He told me, "Okay, let's just take a walk a little bit." It's then harder to hear what we're talking about. So they have a very small, I say, awareness to take care about all these things from not only a technological side. So
yeah, I was asking the different counterparts here at the table, Keyun, because you were talking about this civil movement online. Probably is not going to come from politics. Probably is not going to come from big companies, because if they care about themselves. I think that also David, I haven't asked him, but also most journalists are not really deep into these topics. Even I do this startup show. I'm not really technically profound, which I think sometimes is a shame as well. But this is the situation as it is right now. So where does this civil movement online come from, do you think? Who are those people?
I think it will be largely coming from young people, younger generation, because they will be the ones living on the future of cyberspace, and it is fundamentally, a concern for them.
No youngsters are now used to paying for what they use. So if Facebook would charge 5 or 10 euros, probably they won't even have the money. So they're used to free services. So how is that going to change if you want more data security? Because these business models are based upon these kind of models.
No, I think they pay for apps, right? So they are paid services, and I think more is about what kind of blueprint they want to see on the cyberspace and what kind of life online they want, and then they can try to participate more in terms of political participation, and also there are many forums for young advisory board to.
Can you name some of the forums that we can follow them, or where do these people come together? What kind of forums?
Internationally, there is, for example, a conference called One Young World, and it's for people who are under 22 to solve global challenges. So they have people from all over the world, ambassadors from all over the world, and I think there should be more like these kind of groups. And as she mentioned,
what's the name again? I didn't understand.
One Young World. One Young World.
One Young World.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think many politicians are, and also a lot of people in the leadership position, they are very senior people, and they might not understand the concerns of young people very well. So it's very important to facilitate intergeneration communication and conversation dialogue, so that they get enough feedback from young people.
So suppose if this young movement of people is really getting into the heads of more young people, what kind of new developments will we then see, you think?
In terms of technology, or
yes.
I want to see. For me personally, I want to see technology to reflect more personalized innovations. And I think in the future, because internet is still a quite flat piece of innovation, it's a lot of differences and cultural differences. Diversity is kind of flattened on the cyberspace, and I think I want to see more internet-based innovation to be oriented to each and every individual, to be highly personalized, and to reflect all these very delicate differences. For example, privacy is a very personal thing, and it's different from person to person, from culture to culture. So you cannot have like a global privacy agreement where everybody feel comfortable with. It can only be a baseline, but then based on that, different companies, different providers should have way to compete and to get,
Yeah. I totally agree. I think we might see more free and open software actually if the consciousness grows for like building up your own programs and stuff. And it does not always have to be free, but there are so many things you can still do. For example, I have a Google phone, but I'm running it with a free operating system. It's CyanogenMod. So I bought it from Google, but Google does not know whom I call or where I surf or whatever I do. So this is great. This is free and open software, and we could see way more of it, and just like personal solutions for the individual situation.
Then you also need policymakers to support that. So
for sure, you can encourage the development of free and open software, and it's done in some places.
I want to ask every one of you a last question, and that is, David, do you really think that Prism and Tempora is going to change anything in our personal or business lives?
I think it's going to change everything. I think people are going to, their attitude towards new services is going to change. They're going to be a lot less quick about simply just installing this and etc. Over time this will happen. I think one of the things that hasn't been mentioned so far is that to really get people to realize the impact of what's actually happening, they're going to have to be more human stories coming out. And I don't know if you saw that story about that guy down near Darmstadt who put a thing on Facebook saying he's going to go organize a walk around the NSA, the Camp Dagger or whatever it's called.
Where they have one of their data centers.
It was some new sort of US military facility, and he just put this on Facebook, and then the next thing he's got the German police knocking on his door because the Americans had picked it up and told it to the German. I mean, you couldn't have a more perfect demonstration of what's actually happening. You're going to need more things like that, more human stories to actually make people realize what's actually happening and how risky it is.
Because this is a perfect example for people who say I've got nothing to hide, because he was thinking nothing of it. He was like, I'm going for a walk with a bunch of friends. Exactly, it was a joke. He said, I'm going for a walk, but then he became suspicious, and now he got all this trouble on his head.
And the police pleased him not to tell anything about this.
Yes. That was the best part. Yes, don't put this on the internet, they said. That worked really well.
This is a perfect example of how easy you can become a target, and everybody has to be conscious of it.
Keyun, your theme is cyber peace. I've heard. Not true?
Yeah, no, it's not really my theme. It's a theme that is actually promoted by International Telecommunications Union and a group of scientists as well. So, but I'm just trying to be part of it.
Yeah, and in my opinion, we now at this point couldn't be further away from cyber peace, right? So it's a very challenging situation. What's the first thing what you are going to do when you come home, and what is really important to you?
Come home, you mean tonight?
Yes.
Relax.
In changing the world. Relax? Is that the main recommendation? Just relax, people?
No, I think today's Friday, right? And it's like, what kind of, concrete steps? I'm a workaholic. I always have a lot of projects. So in terms of cyber peace, I think we are now working on a program with ITU to further develop this initiative. And I think it's very intriguing to me because the lack of discussion on the topic and the overwhelming discussion on cyber warfare, which is a bit a contrast. And I think to have a culture of peace and to have to always remember that we want to have a beautiful cyberspace, and the beauty of the internet is very important, and especially for young people to be part of it is very positive. And even though this topic is very multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary, and I am also interested in looking at technically how to implement a lot of these discussions in social science and philosophy, because all the legal regulations, in order for them to be effective, it has to be kind of hard-baked into the system. And now is the time to actually do a lot of things by design, because the technology is still rapidly evolving and being standardized. So it's a very interesting project.
Okay, last word for Miriam. You're running elections. You can have the last word. No problem.
Yeah, no, just if you'd ask me what I would do tonight, I'm going to write tweets and emails to call people to join the demonstration tomorrow, because there's a huge demonstration in Berlin. It's called Stop Watching Us, and it's organized by numerous organizations, parties, non-governmental organizations, and it's going to be huge. And this is the thing that you can do. You can speak up, you can go to the streets, and you can just show that you are not agreeing with the political things that are happening.
Where does it start? What time tomorrow?
I think it starts at 2 p.m. and I think it starts at Heinrich Heine Platz or
Okay.
but I'm not exactly sure. Just
Yeah.
Google "Stop Watching Us Berlin"
But I
and you'll
mean,
be on the homepage.
I mean, if you get out that Cottbuser Tor, then you're pretty sure that you will find yourself in some kind of demonstration, right?
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. On our Saturday. Yeah. We stay in Berlin show, right? So we know what we're talking about. So thank you so much, guys. I want to have a very big round of applause for all these wonderful guests at the table tonight. So give it up for them, please. And I promised you to ask everybody if they felt a little bit more better informed than they were before. So did you also feel, audience, is a question to you, did you feel better informed than before? Yeah? Well, not a very big applause, but a little bit of applause. You have to stay honest as well. So I think there are a couple of people who want to be on the show because they want to announce an event, or they're looking for a co-founder, or they just want to say stuff in the microphone, which is always exciting. So, Jem, where are you? I think you want to announce something, right? Yes. Please come forward. Over there, on the... Yes.
All right. Great, thanks. Thanks, Dirk. Thanks for being here. I want to announce the event, the Long Night of the Startups, actually the Lange Nacht der Startups, and it will take place on the 7th. It will take place on the 7th of September in Berlin and in Mitte, and everything you can find there is on startupnight.de. All the information there, and I'd like to give you a little bit of information about what is going to happen on that day. So it's actually different to all the different, all kind of startup events is that startups get the chance to present themselves to the public audience. So we're targeting more than 5,000 people to be there that night, and it's only about €5 for a startup for entrance fee. So the idea is actually for startups to apply and to showcase their products there. So it's a B2B, a B2C idea. You have a product and present yourself in an interesting way. So we will give you the room there, and it's up to you how to present yourself to the regular audience. We will have an accompanied conference program during the day, and we will also organize a hackathon with Box, which will also be a satellite event around that. But to give you a little bit more details on the Lange Nacht der Startups itself, it's all around startups with games, music, communication, commerce, and startups founded by women, actually. And we have a program to it as well. We have old economy meets new economy. Have like a panel discussion there, where I'm very happy that Dirk is the moderator there, and so we could win him to be there that night as well. And we will also have the possibility for startups to apply to win a trip to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is actually Israel itself is organizing a startup event where in 14 countries worldwide startups can pitch their ideas, and only one company will win from each country and win a trip to Israel, and this will be picked on our event as well. Yeah. So be there, and everything else you can find on startupnight.de. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Yes, thank you so much. All sponsored by Telecom. This evening. Robert, don't you want to tell something about the Robert Reis? Yeah, you from Version I. Don't you want to tell something about the Geek to Geek event that you organized last Tuesday? And could you tell something more about the upcoming event? Wow.
Yeah, Geek to Geek is a new event in Berlin. And in Geek to Geek, we want to bring together different developer communities like PHP guys, Ruby guys, Java devs, and so on. And we have always one topic. And then we have speakers from the different communities who are talking to the same topic. And so we bring different people together with different backgrounds. It was last Tuesday. It was a huge success. And we will do it next month on 20 August, and we will also do it in Amsterdam. Yeah, in August in Amsterdam. The exact date I will publish on the Meetup group. Yeah.
What's the URL?
It's meetup.com/geek2geek.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert. Anyone else who wants to say something before we're going to enjoy a wonderful concert? No. Okay. Yeah, you want to say something? Ah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. My name's Ben. I'm being pointed towards the camera. Sure. My name's Ben. I'm with a startup called Civocracy. What we're doing is actually a little relevant to tonight in that it's a political discourse forum. I have a public policy background. I am not the technical co-founder, but we're actually looking for a few more people to join our team. We're very early stage, and we're hoping to do good things. So if you're interested or know someone, benjamin@civocracy.com or find me later. Thanks very much.
Okay, so thank you so much all for watching the Friday at 6 show. We are here live going to enjoy a wonderful concert. 4 songs they are going to play Skomak, and we're going to barbecue, and we also have, for vegetarians, we have stuff to put on it. I personally, I eat meat, but I will get into debates with my girlfriend or my wife after that I'm telling this. I'm going to enjoy barbecue, I'm going to drink beer, I'm going to have a good time, as always, on the Friday at 6 event, which we end with the band from Chile, the guys who want to do a European tour. So if you can make that happen, email us and we will put you through to these guys. Give it up for Skomak!
Okay, guys, thanks for coming. Hope you had a great time today. We are Skomak from Santiago de Chile. Yeah! Que descanse la fría razón, realidad y realidad. Siente luego existirás. No es problema, es la verdad. Definir tu dualidad. next song is called Sophia. Sé muy bien dónde estás y sin ti, perdón, dolerá, porque hoy nada soy para ti. Hay que estrellas alcanzaron. Prometí un error, tal vez caiga. No me extrañes más, ya vendrá calma. Hoy nada soy para ti. Alcanzar. Mi sol en momentos de penumbra está presente, tu calor en mí. Viven, brillen estrellas alrededor de mí. Hoy las puedo sentir que viven, brillen estrellas giren alrededor de mí. Hoy las puedo sentir dentro de mí. Para avanzar. Thank you. This is the last song. It's called Metamorphosis. esta es la situación. Mi piel está cambiando, me matan tus encantos. Tu piel genera un hambre en mí. Mi piel está cambiando, me matan tus encantos. Me miras, me obliga a traicionar, porque me transformé en un animal. Rastreo tu esencia hasta el final, como un niño perdido. En mis brazos en peligro estás. Si pudiera, de tantas formas que estuviera esta noche aquí, me arrastro como un vil reptil. Sigo tus pasos, estoy en ti. Hasta que no respire, antes que te lastime. Yo soy quien hipnotiza tu pensar. Hasta que no respire, antes que te lastime. Te mire, me obliga a transformar, porque me transformé en un animal. Rastreo tu esencia hasta el final, como un niño perdido. En mis brazos en peligro estás. Pensar ya no es fundamental. Instinto guía este actuar. Lo siento, no puedo. En mis brazos en peligro estás. Solo caminar en la ciudad me he vuelto a transformar. No puedo ser igual a los demás. Me tengo que alejar, teniéndote un pez cerca a mí, escapar del círculo sin fin. Es imposible regresar a ser quien fui, dejando atrás lo que algún día fui. Me acostumbré solo a vivir como un salvaje, es mi condena por cumplir. Porque me transformé en un animal. Rastreo tu esencia hasta el final, como un niño perdido. En mis brazos siempre está. Pensar ya no es fundamental. Instinto guía este actuar. Lo siento, no puedo. En mis brazos en peligro estás. Thank you, thanks for coming. You can find us on internet, SoundCloud, you know it. Thank you guys, see you next time. Bye.